Good morning. Welcome back to Planet Doug Behind the Scenes for Tuesday, November 8th, 6:45 in the morning here at the Kojoy Hotel. Yesterday I was talking a little bit about how my brain is so busy these days that I haven't been able to listen to podcasts, and I tried to switch over to music, but then I found all the normal music that I listen to just way too emotional for first thing in the morning, and I don't need any of those emotions these days. I just have practical things to deal with. But this morning I remembered I also have classical music, and I thought maybe classical music would be the sweet spot for music, for something to listen to, when you get up in the morning and you're showering and shaving and making your first cup of coffee of the day. So I fired up some Bach, and I loved it. Yeah, that seems to be my music for now. It's just right. It's there in the background. It doesn't take over your brain. It doesn't interfere with your thinking process. You just have the music there, a gentle Bach concerto playing in the background, and that was quite nice. I could even have it playing now, I think, because classical music doesn't have copyright applied, I don't think. But I'm not going to take the chance, because perhaps one particular performance of a classical piece by a certain symphony orchestra from this or that country, maybe they've copyrighted their performance of it, and the computer can pick that up and you'll still get hit with a copyright claim or something. I don't know. But anyway, I don't have any music playing right now. I have a couple of stories to tell from yesterday. Let's see what was going on yesterday. One of the big things was I went back to the Morrow house, which is where my old guest house where I was staying before the Kojoy, and I still have the room there for a couple of more days. And I didn't move all of my gear over in one day. I just brought over the essentials when I first moved into this room. And then I've been going back there from time to time. I left my bike there for a few days because it wasn't really ready to be moved yet, but I went back one day and got it all cleaned up and tuned up. Then I moved my bike here. But I had one remaining item still at that guest house, and that was my bicycle trailer. It's a Radical Design Cyclone 4 trekking trailer. If you want to look it up online, look for Radical Design is the company in the Netherlands. And the trailer that you see there, the Cyclone 4, I think is identical to the one I have. They haven't updated it since the 4 came out, I don't think. So that's the one I have. I'll show it in this video later on at the end when the sun comes up and the lobby downstairs is brightly lit. I'll roll my trailer down there and hook it up to the bike and do a quick demo. You can see what the trailer looks like. Yeah, it's a very interesting device, that trailer. Quite fond of it. And yesterday I had another very typical Planet Doug technology adventure, because I was chatting with a friend and a YouTube subscriber about bicycles and things like that, and he watched one of my videos in which I was talking about my tire pressure gauge, which you use to measure, when you're pumping up your tires, you want to make sure you get it to the right pressure. So you have a little handheld gauge and you measure the tire pressure. And whether you have put in too much air or too little. And he saw that, and it kind of gave him the idea that, hey, I could use a tire pressure gauge. You can use it for cars, scooters, motorcycles, and bikes. They have a range that matches all of them. And this friend of mine has a scooter and a bicycle and car and maybe a motorcycle as well, I'm not sure. So he ordered one off Lazada, and then he sent me a message saying, yeah, I picked up this Toe Peak tire pressure gauge. So I was chatting with him about that, and mine, the one that I have, is also a Toe Peak, but it was in storage for 3 years and it's kind of falling apart. You can barely read the numbers on the screen anymore because the LCD screen just has a big black circle taking up most of the middle. And it used to have this plastic coating or this plastic cover over the top, and that plastic actually turned into dust. It snapped off. It was weird. I took the pressure gauge out of my toolkit And I was looking at it, and the shape was weird. It's like, I don't remember it looking like that. Like, what is this big gap along the top? And I thought, what is that gap for? I don't remember. And then in the bottom of my toolkit, I found all these pieces of plastic, just a random selection. And I'd pick it up, these pieces of plastic, and it just sort of crumbled into dust in my fingers. I thought, what did that piece of plastic used to be? You know, there were enough pieces there I could kind of guess at the shape of it, and I was like, I have no idea what that is. Whatever it is, it's gone now. It just disintegrated because of the heat and the humidity. And then I remembered, oh, that's this plastic covering that was attached to the top of the pressure gauge, and I guess it just snapped off and then just disintegrated and turned into dust. So it was a pretty good bet that my tire pressure gauge needed to be replaced. It still worked. It seemed to work. You know, I used it when I pumped up my tires, and if I kind of squint and try to read the numbers, I can do it. But it's pretty clear it would need to be replaced if I was going to do any cycling or bike maintenance. And this friend of mine ordered his tire pressure gauge from Lazada, and he sent me a screenshot of this gauge in a Lazada store. And I said, yeah, you can just order it from Lazada. And I was thinking, yeah, actually, I should probably do that. I like to go to stores, physical stores, to go shopping, but quite often the things I'm looking for are just never there, and it's just a giant waste of time to go to stores sometimes. If you can order it online and have it delivered, and I could probably have things delivered here to the Kojoy Hotel. There's always someone at the front desk here, which is nice. You know, I wouldn't have been able to do that at the Morrow house, my old guest house, because there's no one there. You know, it's just a locked door, and no delivery person could ever find it anyway. So, but I could do it here because I'm staying in a real hotel that has a real front desk with staff, and I could probably get the address from them and then have Lazada ship it here. So I thought, okay, cool. Had I been thinking about it, I wouldn't have done this, because it was something like 9 or 9:30 last night when all this was taking place. And it's a very bad idea to embark on anything technological that late at night, or late for me, because it's not going to work. But anyway, I do have a Lazada account. I opened it here in Malaysia, and then when I went to Thailand, I changed my country in Lazada to Thailand. You have to tell Lazada, you know, where you are, because you have to load up the Thailand version of the app or the Malaysia version of the app. There isn't one that covers both countries, as far as I know. So anyway, I fired up my Lazada account, and then I went into the settings, and there's a drop-down list, and I was going to change it from Thailand to Malaysia. You can probably guess where this story is going. I had a lot of trouble, as I always do. But anyway, I changed it to Malaysia, hit save or whatever the button said, and then I got a message that said, well, in order to change your location, we have to log you out. You know, is that okay? And I was like, well, yeah, I have no choice. So I said yes, and now I'm logged out of Lazada, and then you have to log back in. So I'm logging back in, and they say, okay, you know, what is your username and then your password? One of the best things I ever did in my life, by the way, was set up a password manager, because my online technical life is so complex. There's no possible way I could keep track of all of my passwords and usernames and sign-in credentials, all the codes that are in my life. No way I could ever keep track of them myself anymore. So I use a password manager, and that, I love it, absolutely. I couldn't live without it. But it also adds another level of complexity to these things, because in order for me to get my password for Lazada, which I don't know, I don't have it written down anywhere, I don't have it in my head, I have to get into my password manager first. So it says, okay, enter your password. Oh, so I need to get into my password manager. So I open up that app. And of course, I need a password to go into my password manager. You have a master password for that. So I enter my master password, and I move all the time, and I change devices so often that almost every time I do it, it registers on their security systems as an unusual login, and they block me. So then they send me an email. They give a message saying, you know, we have detected unusual activity on your password manager, and you know, we have sent an email to your email address on record, and please go there to verify that it's you. So then I have to go into my email account, find that email, find the thing that says, we have detected, someone is trying to log into your account on an unusual device or in an unusual place. If this is you, do this and enter this code here. So I go through that whole process. Finally, it accepts my login, password and credentials for my password manager. But then I also have two-step verification turned on for everything, which is what you should do. So now I'm logging into my password manager, but then my password manager asks me for my verification code through the two-step verification process. And that involves opening up another app, because that's handled by a device that keeps the new code is generated every 60 seconds. So you have to go into your code generator, load that, and since this is a brand new phone that I'm using, I hadn't actually logged into my code generator yet. I'd installed the app on this particular phone, but I hadn't had a reason to log into it yet. Because I can get the codes from my other phones as well, but my other phones weren't turned on at the time. They were all off and they were powering up. I was charging the batteries. So I only had this one phone. So then I had to log into that one using my login credentials and my password, just to turn on the two-step verification code generator to get the code that I need to enter into my password manager. And the only reason I was going through this long, complicated process was just so I could enter my password manager and get my password for Lazada. Right? That's all I wanted. And yet I had to dig layers deep in order to get to it. I finally got to it. I entered that into Lazada, and then it said, we see some unusual activity on your Lazada account, and we sent you an email. Can you please go look at that and follow the instructions there? So I go back to my email account, and then there's an email from Lazada. And oddly enough, in Lazada, I have everything set to English. My account settings are in English. My preferred language is English. Everything is in English. But here in Malaysia, for some reason, all the communication from Lazada is always in what do they call it on their menu system? Bahasa Malaysia, anyway, it's in Malaysian. And oddly enough, that didn't happen in Thailand. You could choose there as well. Do you want English or Thai? And I would always choose English. And all their emails were in English. But in Lazada, Malaysia, all their emails, all their messages, all their communication is always in Malaysian. It's not in English, even though my account is in English. Not quite sure why. I've never been able to fix that. But anyway, I open up this email, and there's this long email telling me about how somebody is trying to log into your Lazada account, and we want to verify that it's you. And the only reason I know it said all that was because I had to copy and paste the whole email into a translator. I kind of knew what it said, and you could tell there's always a link in them, right? You can click on the link to verify that it's you. And I was pretty sure what the link was that I'm supposed to click on, but I didn't know for sure. I didn't want to click on the wrong thing. So now I have to copy and paste the whole email into a translator, Google Translate, and then I could see, okay, that's what the email said, and there's the link that I have to click on. So I go back into the email and I click on that link. It takes me to the Lazada app, and it opened up this page. It was a full page on my smartphone. It looks like a page from a website, and then there's a whole bunch of writing, and then there's two buttons to click on. And I know in the email it said something about you have to click on either allow or don't allow. But this screen on my phone was so tiny. I mean, it wasn't a normal, it was like it had taken a website page, like a full-on computer laptop page, shrunk it down to smartphone size with like minuscule lettering and stuck it on your phone. It was not altered to fit a phone screen. It was just the same size as a normal website from a computer and shrunk down, and you could not read them. I mean, with these glasses, I couldn't But I have another pair of glasses that I found at the side of the road when I was scootering in Thailand one day. Some poor guy lost his reading glasses, which were like Mr. Magoo glasses. I mean, just high-powered magnifying glasses, and I have those. I brought them with me. So anyway, I get out these high-powered magnifying glasses. I put those on, and then I'm staring at this page, and even then, it was almost impossible to read. I'm like, what the? Trying to... And you normally you could like pinch to zoom in and out, make it bigger on the screen, but you couldn't do that with this screen. It was locked into place. You couldn't zoom in, you couldn't increase the size, you couldn't do anything. I tried to do like a screenshot of that page, and then you can open it somewhere else, like a photo, and then zoom in on the photo. But even then, the detail was not great enough for me to be able to read it. But I was just sort of like squinting, looking through these Mr. Magoo glasses, and I got out this really bright light that I have, and I'm shining it there, and I thought I could kind of see allow, don't allow. And the buttons were so small that my finger covered up both of them. Like you're supposed to touch one of them, but they were so small and so close together that my entire finger was like a giant's finger. Jolly green giant finger coming down trying to mash the screen. I'm like, well, it covers up both of the buttons. So I'm just trying so hard to get off to the button that says allow, and without pushing the don't allow button. And it was really hard to do. And I finally managed to click on it, but of course, all of this took such a long time that by the time I finally managed to take my giant finger and push on that button, the code was invalid because it's running on a timer. It's like, this code is only going to be valid for 60 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever it was. I forget how long that particular code was valid for. But by the time I got all this figured out, it wouldn't work anymore. It says, oh, this code has timed out. So I have to start all over again. I have to go back to Lazada, try to log in again, get the message about how, we've detected, unusual activity on your account. Please go check the email. Go back, I check the email. Now I know what button I want to push. I click on that one and I get an error message. Just an error message. I couldn't read it. It was so tiny, and it only comes up on the screen a short amount of time, and then it disappears again. So there's no way I could even do my Mr. Magoo glasses and trying to figure it out. I just got this big red error message every time I tried to click that button. It just wouldn't work. So I was caught in one of these security catch-22s, like one of these security loops that just goes around and around and around. You try to log in and they need you to, check the code. You try to get the code, but you can't get the code. That kicks you out back to the app and you just go around and around and around in circles. If I called up my email account now, it would be 2 solid pages of emails from Lazada. 16 of them. I counted 16 emails from Lazada with various codes and instructions and security codes. And that's not even including the OTP codes that they, pushed to my, as an SMS. Even those are there. Those are separate from the codes they had to send me, as emails. I won't tell you the whole story, how long it went from this point. It would take way too long, but as I said, it resulted in 16 emails from Lazada as I tried again and again and again to send the code, and different ways, different means, different things, and I finally managed to get into the account. And then once I'm in the account, it still had my old phone number from Thailand, and that I have to change that, so I need to update my phone number. So I go into my settings to change it to my new Malaysian SIM card, my new Malaysian phone number, and I go, okay, change phone number. Takes me to the settings where I change the phone number, and I click on, change phone number, and I'm entering the phone number. And then, of course, I get a big message that says, oh, we've detected unusual activity on your account. Somebody is trying to change your phone number. Please go to the email that we sent you to verify that it's you. So it's like, oh no. That's where out of those 16, several of those had to do with this. So then I had to go over there, and now it's like it's a brand new message from them that I've never seen before. So I got to copy and paste the email into a translator, and I'm reading the whole thing, trying to figure out what I'm supposed to click on, what I'm supposed to do. By the time I get that figured out, the code is invalid again. I have to go back into Lazada, try to change my phone number again. Oh, we've detected unusual activity. Go check your email. I go do that again, and they say, oh, okay, we believe you. You really are who you say you are. So I go back in to change the phone number, and now because I'm entering a new phone number, they have to verify. They verified my identity through all this other procedure, but now changing the phone number, which they've decided to allow me to do. So I say, okay, we're going to let you change the phone number. So I'm doing that, but they say, oh, we have to test to make sure that this is a real valid phone number, because now they have to send an OTP code to that number. So now you have to go through that process, and luckily that one worked, though I don't get notifications for OTPs, anything like that. I don't get notifications about that, so I'm waiting and waiting and waiting for them to send me the code, and it never showed up. I'm like, you know, where is it? Where is it? But then I have to physically go into my messages for my phone, and there it was. They had sent the code, but my phone didn't beep or flash or let me know that I got anything. So, but it was there, and I entered that code, and then now, finally, I was able to open the Lazada app for Malaysia with my new phone number. And of course I have to change the address as well, but luckily, well, not luckily, but I didn't have the address last night, so I didn't do that. That probably would have involved another series of these same, you know, verification, confirmation emails. But I'm finally in Lazada, and then of course I go looking for this pressure gauge. You know, my friend had sent me, you know, a screenshot from this online seller on Lazada that sells this particular tire pressure gauge. So I'm looking for that. I type in the name of the pressure gauge, and then all the results were from Penang. There were no Kuala Lumpur results. And I'm in Kuala Lumpur. And yet all the Lazada sellers were based in Penang. And I'm assuming that happened because I got my SIM card in Penang, and the computer probably read my phone number, recognized that this SIM card was purchased in Penang, therefore I must be in Penang, and then it only serves up Penang sellers on Lazada. I thought, well, oh, for Pete's sake, like, I don't want that. I mean, sure, if they want to ship them from Penang to here, that I'm okay with that, but why isn't it showing me there's got to be Lazada sellers in Kuala Lumpur, right? So now I'm diving back into the settings looking for, like, how do I change that? Like, and there is a moment when it comes up that says, you know, we would like to use the location on your phone. Are you okay with that? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm okay with that. You know, it's like, okay, that will probably fix my problem. Now they'll switch to using the location of my phone rather than where the phone number came from. So I entered, yeah, please follow me on my phone. I have no issues with that. And I thought that would fix the problem, but then I went back into Lazada. I searched for a bunch of things, you know, camera gadgets, cycling gadgets, all the things I normally look for, and all the sellers just about were from Penang. Penang. And there are one or two from Selangor, which I guess is one or two from Selangor. And then there was one showed up on one article that said WP Kuala Lumpur. So there was one seller in all the searches I did from Kuala Lumpur. And that's it. So that's where I left it last night. By then I was like, okay, I am done. You know, this was supposed to be so easy, just to do online shopping and have the pressure gauge shipped to the Kojoy hotel. And I was just exhausted, and I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore tonight. I'm finished. I should have saved it for the morning when I was feeling fresh. That was too much to do last night. But yeah, I did it. And I guess now, yeah, today, I'll probably go to a bike shop and buy the pressure gauge. I'll look for it and buy it in person because I'm exhausted with Lazada. And I want to go to a bike store anyway. You know, that's fun for me. So that was a good chunk of my evening last night. Not a big chunk of my day, but a good chunk of my evening. Also yesterday, I spent a good chunk of time editing some videos from Penang because, yeah, I still have all those experiences. I kind of went crazy in Penang. I wasn't thinking clearly, I guess. I keep doing this and then I forget that it happens, that when I was in Penang, I basically recorded every day that I was there on video. I was doing a variety of things and I shot so much video that there was no way to actually edit it and post it at the time. So I ended up sort of archiving it, and I just brought it all with me down here to Kuala Lumpur. And I was intending to just sit down and power through all the Penang videos and post those, you know, very quickly. And then once they were posted, then I would switch over to my life here in Kuala Lumpur. But I just didn't, I never did that. I just started posting videos from KL anyway. And now my Penang videos are old news, but I still do have the videos, and I'm going to post them intermittently and confuse everyone in the world out there who may be following my small adventures. And I thought he was in Kuala Lumpur. How did he get to Penang? And then 4 days later, it's like, what? He's back in Penang? I thought he... So, yeah, they'll just have to be confused. But the video that I was working on, it was interesting for me as well, because that experience now is so far in the past that even I kind of smile when I watch it, because it dates from my very first few days in Penang. Like, I basically had just arrived, and I stayed there for 3 weeks, and by the end of the 3 weeks, I was much more familiar with Georgetown, with the island, with everything to do with that place. But in the video, I'm still a newbie. So there I am walking around the streets of Georgetown. The video was really just a video where I went out for a walk to go shopping. I was shopping for a GoPro accessory. I needed a GoPro battery in particular. Anyway, I just took the day and went out walking. I was just going to walk around Georgetown, combine shopping for a battery with exploring the city, you know, having something to eat, things like that. And as I'm walking around, of course, I'm talking about various things, and it's so obvious that I have no clue what I'm doing. You know, I was lost. I didn't know where I was a lot of the time because I wasn't oriented yet. And yet now, future Doug, I watch the video and I know exactly where I am, and I know exactly what I'm looking at, and I know everything that's going on around me in the video. But past Doug, he had no clue. And I was like, oh, what a dummy. You know, he doesn't even, I mean, it's so obvious. You're here, that's there, you go in this direction. But of course, at that time, I didn't know. So it's kind of funny to watch the video. But it is a very long video, and a lot of it, to be honest, is not very exciting. It's me rambling around, going to camera stores and things like that. And I don't know whether I'll do anything with all that video or not. For the whole day, the day as a whole, I shot 2 hours of video. So if I put all the video together, it would be 2 hours long. I shot that much. But there was one interesting, well, there are lots of interesting experiences mixed in there. But the main one for me was I came across a temple, a very famous temple in Penang, though of course when I was standing in front of it like a dummy, I didn't know the name of it, I didn't know it was famous, I didn't know why it was famous. And there was a lot of activity going on at the temple. And now I know why there was a lot of activity. It was the 9 Emperor Gods Festival. I know that now, but of course Doug at the time, he didn't know, but I had to do the research afterwards, and now I know. But it was the 9 Emperor Gods Festival going on at this temple, and there was so much activity that I kind of investigated a little bit. So I stayed longer at the temple, perhaps, than I would have normally, watched a lot of things that were going on, and then I approached some volunteers at the temple. They had a table set up with, I don't know, 3 people sitting at the table, then a bunch more. They were all wearing the same shirts. They had kind of a uniform indicating that they were connected with the temple. And of course, they were there collecting money from people who come to the temple to perform ceremonies, burn incense, do all the things you do at a Taoist Buddhist temple, and then make a donation to the temple at the same time to gain merit, to gain good fortune, good luck, good health, all the things that you go to one of these temples to acquire. And I went up to the table hoping to talk to them and ask them some questions about the temple. And that led into a pretty funny situation because the woman I approached was very friendly, very open, and very eager to help me. And I think she would have been the perfect person to talk to in terms of her level of English and her outgoing nature. I really would have liked to talk with her, but she kind of says, no, not me. I can't do it. And then it's like a game of hot potato when the foreigner shows up. Like even if you walk into a restaurant where English is not commonly spoken, or they're not accustomed to foreigners like me, I walk in, and then if you walk up to the very first waiter, he's like, hot potato. He'll just sort of toss you to the next waiter, and that waiter's like, no, not me. And he'll toss you to the next one, And then eventually the last person you get to, he's the one who has to hold the hot potato and deal with the foreigner. And normally the last person in the hot potato game is the one who speaks English the best. There's always one person in the store, in the restaurant, in the temple, who is acknowledged as being the best English speaker. And when a foreigner shows up, they generally call to that person and they come and help you out. So the woman at the table, she kind of hot potatoed me down the table to another guy, thinking that, well, he speaks English better than I do. And she called out to him and said, oh, he has some questions about the temple, like, can you talk to him? And his reaction to the hot potato was, no. He tossed it away as fast as possible. He said, no, not me. And they had a conversation back and forth. And he said, okay, what I'll do is I'll call somebody. He was going to get on the phone and call someone to come talk to me. So the hot potato, was tossed onto the phone lines. And I assumed this would be the local English expert, like someone that they all agreed on was the English speaker. And this person would come and talk to me. They would toss the hot potato in their direction. So I waited a couple of minutes, chatted with the woman again to ask another question, and she actually answered it, and I was learning a couple of things and kept thinking, you could easily have answered all my questions. But then I waited, and then a man showed up, but it was not who I was expecting. I was expecting the English expert, but it turns out he was not the English expert. His English was actually not as good as all the other people I had already been speaking with. I guess they hot potatoed him into the game because he was the authority. He was sort of in charge of the volunteers at the temple, and he was considered to be the most knowledgeable about the temple, not necessarily, or the biggest authority figure, not necessarily the best English speaker. So I took my Rode Wireless Go microphone and I clipped it to him, so to get his voice. And then I tried to ask him a few questions, but we really weren't getting anywhere. I would ask one question, and he would answer me, but he would be answering a different question, one that I hadn't asked. So he was clearly just guessing what it was I was asking. And but I got information, but just sort of I would ask one question, and he would answer a different one. But it was a question I was going to ask anyway, so I did get the answer. I just got them all out of order. And then I talked to him for a while. And that's when I learned things like, well, I kind of learned this earlier, that it was the 9 Emperor Gods Festival, which I don't understand at all even now. I was reading about it. I don't know, are there 9 emperors? Is it the 9th emperor? Are there 9 gods? The 9 Emperor Gods Festival. But I think he told me, or the other people also told me, that it's celebrating the birthday of one emperor. Why he's the 9 Emperor Gods, I don't know why. But anyway, I think there's one emperor, it was his birthday, he was a great warrior, and he might have been a vegetarian. Anyway, the festival is 9 or 10 days long, 9 days long, It's 9 days long, and it is also a vegetarian festival. And I think all the people at the temple would eat a vegetarian diet for those 9 days. And again, I didn't know any of this at the time. I figured all this out later. And then across the road from the temple, I saw a long line of food stalls stretching down the whole length of the street. And I crossed over there and I walked along there, and it turned out all the food there was vegetarian. And I didn't know this at the time, but it wasn't a permanent food market. It was only there for the 9 days of the 9, I hope I got the name right, the 9 Emperor Gods Festival. Let me look that up for a second just to confirm. Well, I should have read this before. Anyway, it is called the 9 Emperor Gods Festival, or Vegetarian Festival, or J Festival. Is a 9-day Taoist celebration beginning on the eve of the 9th lunar month of the Chinese calendar. And there's a lot of information here that I'm not going to get into. But there isn't one emperor. In fact, there are no emperors at all. They are actually gods. Yeah, it's very, very complicated to do with a whole bunch of figures that I don't know anything about. They are the 9 sons manifested by the father emperor Zhu Yu Du Fu Yuan Jun and mother of the Big Dipper Du Mu Yuan Jun. So they are the 9 sons of these celestial beings, all represented by the 9 stars of the Big Dipper. And I didn't know any of this at the time. Actually, now that I'm reading that, it's no surprise that the man couldn't explain any of this to me. I mean, how do you explain that in any language? But anyway, at the time, I understood that there was one human emperor, and he was a great warrior and a vegetarian. But apparently the 9 emperor gods, they're actually gods. But somehow they're also emperors, and they're represented by the stars of the Big Dipper. And they're vegetarian? I don't know where vegetarianism comes in. But anyway, I walked along the street and I sampled a bunch of, vegetarian bits of food there. And all of that is in the video that I will be posting. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't actually read all of that before. Feels like I would have, but yeah. At the time, when I visited this temple, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't even know it was an actual celebration. Like a festival, a 9-day festival. I just thought it was a day when a lot of people came to the temple. And then only over time that I figured out was, no, it's actually a special day because of the festival. And the other thing I noticed when I was there, and I've seen this at a lot of temples lately, is that there are so many people visiting, and they're putting so many incense sticks in all the pots and places where you put incense sticks, that they have a man whose job it is to he wears gloves, and he goes all around the temple and then gathers up big handfuls of these incense sticks and pulls them out of the pots. And I followed him to see what he was doing, and he took all of this incense and then took it over to one of the big the furnaces that they have there. This temple only had one. I've seen temples, have lots of them. I was at a different one in Penang. They had 3 huge furnaces, I think 3 of them. And you burn ghost money and burn things. And anyway, they had one at this temple, and this man would take these big bundles of burning incense, remove them, and then take them over to the furnace and throw them all into the furnace. So it was like a big mountain of incense burning, in the furnace. And later on, I passed the temple a second time on my way back to my Airbnb, and I saw a dumpster. I happened to look inside the dumpster, and inside the dumpster were, I don't know, half a dozen or a dozen of those giant incense sticks, the ones that are like 8 inches across. And there's a whole display of them at the front of the temple, and they're 6 feet tall, that big around. They're like trees, or incense trees, and they're burning from the top. And I had been examining them earlier and talking about them in the video, wondering, how much do they cost, and who pays for them, and how do you light them, how long does it take for one of them to burn all the way down. But apparently they don't let them burn all the way down. They let them burn down a little bit, but then they have to make room for new ones, and they just take the old ones and throw them in the dumpster. And I remember thinking, how do the local people feel about this? It seemed kind of inevitable because of the vast volume of incense being burned. But at the same time, I don't know, I'm going to the temple, I make a donation, I get my incense, I bow 3 times, I put some incense here, and I'm asking for good fortune, good luck, good health, whatever it is I'm asking for. And my incense is an offering to the gods so that I get what it is I want. But then as soon as I walk away, the guy comes along and takes away my incense and throws it in the furnace. Don't you want your incense, your offering, to burn all the way down to the bottom to complete the offering? I don't know, it feels like if I were doing that, leaving an incense offering, I want it to stay there until it burns all the way down. And yet they don't do that. They remove it, and I guess it still burns because it burns in the furnace. It all goes up in a big, big cloud of flames. So technically it's still being offered up, into the air. But anyway, I still feel like, I was just thinking about that. That's kind of odd that they remove it so quickly. But at the same time, they almost have to, because there isn't enough room to accommodate all the incense, that people are putting into place. So yeah, so that's the video that I'm working on right now. Now I feel like a bit of a dummy now that I'm reading about the festival, and there's so much information there that for whatever reason I never found out. So in the video I sound like even more of a dummy than I am normally. However, in my defense, I tried to find out. I went in there and I talked to people, and I even mic'd them up. I took the effort to put a microphone on them to ask them my questions. I interviewed people at the temple, and yet even with all that, I still had no idea what was going on. I didn't even know what the festival was about until right now, actually. So yeah, that's a typical life, a typical day on Planet Doug. So I think that's all the stories I'm going to tell right now for behind the scenes. And then once the sun comes up, I'll take my trailer down into the lobby and I'll show you what the trailer looks like. So check back in like 2 seconds. As promised, here's a demo of my bicycle trailer. That's it there. And there's a lot of interesting things about this trailer, but perhaps the most interesting is that it has 3 variations. The wheel has 2 different positions. So right now I have the wheels at the back of the trailer, and because they're at the back, you can pick up the front of the handle, which normally attaches to the bicycle, and then you can pull it behind you. So it's essentially luggage right now. So as you can see, I can raise the front of it up as high as I want, and then, just walk around with it. So basically, when you arrive at your hotel or wherever you are going to spend the night, you can unhook the trailer, you move the wheels to the back position, and then you can just roll the trailer right into your room. And then when you attach it to your bicycle, maybe I'll do that demonstration here, where there's just more space maybe. So when I want to put it onto my bicycle, you have to put the wheels in a different position. So you would hook it on first, and then there's one button here. You push the button in, the wheel comes out, and there's another hole here in the middle, and you attach the wheel in the middle position, and you do the same on this side. You pull the wheel out, the axle comes right out, and it goes into the middle of the trailer, and that would be the riding position, because this attaches to the wheel, and now the trailer stays level like that and pulls behind the trailer, behind the bicycle. But if you try to walk with it, now you can't, because it isn't angled properly. The wheels aren't touching the ground. So As I said, when you arrive at your hotel, now it's in the cycling position, and you basically unclip the wheel and put it into the back like that. It locks into place. And you remove this one, and that clicks into position, and now you can walk along as a luggage. And the third position, I'm not going to demonstrate that, but the wheels fit inside the bag itself, so you can remove the wheels, put them inside the bag. This bar unhooks and the bar goes inside the bag, and then it becomes luggage, like an actual duffel bag. And there's a shoulder strap, and the shoulder strap hooks on here and there, and then you can carry it over your shoulder, you know, and walk into an airport. And airlines will accept this as luggage. It's oversized though, so you generally would have to take it to the oversized luggage area, which is not a big deal because that's where you're bringing your bicycle anyway. So you have your bicycle inside a box, and then you have this, and then you bring it to the oversized luggage. But it does fit within airline specifications for being, you know, taken onto the plane. So that's the basic idea of the trailer, and then I'll show you how it hooks onto the bicycle. So, in theory, that's what happens. You come down from your hotel room, you've got the trailer in the elevator with you. Fits in normal elevators, of course. And then you can roll it up to your the rear wheel of your bicycle, and the bike has a special mount here that attaches to the axle. And it's a pretty simple procedure. This has a ball head on it, and then this has an opening on the bar, and you pull down this locking mechanism. The ball fits into the hole and it locks into position, and that's it. That's the whole procedure. And now the bike pulls the trailer behind it. And as I said, right now you can see the wheels on the trailer are in the rear axle position, so you wouldn't go riding like this. You could, I've done it by accident, but you don't want it like this because now all the weight is being put onto the rear axle of the bicycle. So what you need to do is move the wheels to the middle. So as I said, you pop it off, slide that one into position, and this one, and that's it. So that's pretty much the whole procedure. But now you see why that's important, because the wheel is in the center of the trailer, so all the weight of all your gear is being supported by the trailer wheels. None of it is being transferred to the bike itself, so all the weight is being supported by the trailer itself, which is one of the advantages of using a trailer. And when you've arrived at your home for the night, you just reverse the procedure. You generally leave the trailer attached to the bike. It just makes it easier. Lift up, pull the wheel off, clip it into the rear position, do this one, lock that one into position, and then here you just pull down on this locking mechanism and it pops right off. And then away you go. Into the elevator. If you are lucky enough to have an elevator. A lot of the hotels I've stayed in the past, there is no elevator, and you have to carry everything up the stairs, and then that trailer can be a real beast. I don't really want to get into this in detail, but with pannier bags, one of the advantages there's many advantages to pannier bags, but one of the advantages is all your luggage is divided into separate bags. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then each bag is not so heavy. You can carry them easily. But then if you take all of that luggage and put it into one bag, plus the weight of the trailer, it's a very heavy thing to carry all at once. You can roll it around easily, But then a fully loaded trailer, if you have to pick it up and carry it up 5 flights of stairs, yeah, that's an effort. So I've worked out a system where I have all my luggage in the trailer in individual, very lightweight duffel bags. So if I'm in that situation, I can open up the trailer, pull out one of the duffel bags or 2 of the duffel bags, carry those up separate from the trailer. But when you're bike touring, you're generally making a lot of trips in and out of your hotel room when you arrive. All of your luggage and your bike, all of your gear, you're making a lot of trips back and forth to carry all of your gear into your room. So you're kind of doing that anyway. The trailer adds to it considerably, but it's just something you have to deal with. So that's the trailer. It's the end of the behind the scenes for this morning, and I'll see you in the next video.